welcome to the Happy Hour today. We are glad that you are all here. And we have got the one and only Dawn Brolin, who is being safe and driving home right now.
She's home now. She's walking. Don't trip,
right.
Dawn. Don't trip.
So Heather, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Heather Satterley. I'm the director.
Oh, don't worry about me.
Media at Woodard. I'm also a CPA and an automation expert. So I've been doing this a long time, and I love talking apps, and I love hanging out with you guys.
Ditto. I'm just going to say, I love hanging out with you guys. I love talking apps. I think that it's super fun to be able to share with our community, and I'm grateful that we get to do that. So Dawn, you want to give us, what do you not do?
Well, that's fair to ask that question. I do a lot of things, and it's the things that I love to do the most. Of course, I do love my clients. I do like to do my work. Very, in tune to that, and I love it. But at the end of the day, my passion is helping other practitioners improve their businesses and their processes so that I know that they're all actually able to run their businesses and have a life outside of work. Oh, here we go. Hold on. Okay. Here we are, people.
Well done.
It's under control. But I love, it just always is under control. But I really do love to help my fellow practitioners with running their business so that they're working 30 hours a week and making more money than they've ever made before. That's where I get really passionate and fired up. And the apps that I work with, I love that they're so always open to, open to suggestions, open to change, open to understanding. And it's just been so amazing the last few years for me. And I have to say, I know COVID's been really wicked in a lot of ways for a lot of people. And my prayers are out to people who are negatively affected by it through my heart. I had an experience of, I figured out how to get my crap together in my firm. And I had to, because I started coaching softball. And so that was my initial drive, was I want to be able to coach softball. I need to get all my tech stack in order. So when I'm at practice, my business is still running and things are happening without my presence. And that's what we needed. But then when COVID hit, it gave me the opportunity to really solidify that. So for that part, I'm thankful. But anyway, and I love Liz and Heather. I've been friends with you guys not long enough. I wish it was from the beginning of my birth, right? But we'll take what we can get.
Always. We'll take it and we'll be happy about it, because it's a fortunate thing to be able to have you in our community and have you so open. And Heather and I got a sneak peek at the things that you're going to share with everybody. And I think that there's a couple of little surprises. So
cool stuff.
There are, and it's things that you've learned. And, because we're friends, I've watched you implement over the course of the last 3 years.
Yeah.
So
I just got serious, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like you said, there's always silver lining. So with COVID, I think that many of us had some negative things that happened, but then also it is an opportunity.
And that's the thing. Industry. Yeah. It's how you, I've learned over time, I used to be very reactional. I was a very reactional person, and learned that to take a step back when something negative happens. Primarily when things are really good, it's easy for us to all be fired up and everything's great. But when those negative things happen, or things that you never expected or whatever, it's never those things that happened that change the course and direction of your life, but rather it's how you react to it. Mm-hmm. What do you do when something drastic happens, like a pandemic, for the love of everything that's good? How do you approach that? Is it in a way that, okay, I understand this is a really terrible thing and we're all going through this and we're going through it together, but how do we handle it? And so I've learned to bring that into my life where, I love to be transparent with people, by the way, because everything isn't always roses. And I know that I'm a positive person. I'm the motivator. But I was sued in the beginning of August. And that happened to me. And I had two choices to make, besides the first night of sleeplessness, because I'd never been sued before. But the way I reacted to the situation was very methodical and logical, and I would say in a way with a sense of patience, that I'm in this situation right now and I can do one of a bunch of things. I can fold and cry, and I can give in, and and I said, you know what, hold on a second, let me look into my soul for a minute. I did nothing wrong. I know, like, if I do something wrong, man, I'm the first one to admit it, and I can own my crap. I can own my stuff. And I was like, but this isn't something I need to own, because you've done nothing wrong in this scenario. It was a fraud case. And it's people, when you are in fraud cases, people are litigious in a lot of ways. You can get wrapped up into that, in that litigious spirit with the client if things don't go the way they want them to. Whether you did something, or if they're not getting their way, they want to take their ball and go home, and they're going to blame everybody else. So anyway, that was a really good example for me of how I went through a process of this kind of discord. It hasn't killed me. I'm still here. Right. I've never told anyone about that. So this is again, I like to be very open. People understand that, everything in Dawn Brolin's life isn't magical and perfect and flowers and babies and puppies. I go through stuff too, but really I found that the way I react to it and the way I handle it is what makes me who I am, and how I can help other people make it through things like that.
Well, I think that the community got to see you move into this spot of designated motivator. I mean, and that was something that, I feel like during COVID grew because there was such a need to be open and honest. Like, you being open and honest right now makes somebody else feel like, okay, it's safe zone. And so, whenever you can talk about the ugly, that's whenever you can start to go, okay, maybe it's not so ugly, because there are things that we did gain out of that scenario.
Yeah. And this scenario was really around engagement letters, right? Engagement letters, and the importance of a solid engagement letter to really spell out the scope of work and setting expectations. At the end of the day, what happened was I was brought in as a forensic accountant for accounting purposes and QuickBooks and tax and that stuff. They are portraying it as if I portrayed myself to be a computer expert, that I was supposed to mirror hard drives when I went in to retrieve a QuickBooks file. I clearly never put myself out to be a QuickBooks expert to gather the mirrored hard drive. Like, I never put myself out to be that. So I learned from that, and it's an opportunity for growth for me in whatever way that is. And you know what? I seem to learn really well from falling on my face, but you know what? I keep getting back up. I get back up and I learn from it. I hopefully teach someone else. When people will ask me, give me a copy of your engagement letter, I'm like, no, not giving you a copy of my engagement letter, because I don't know if it's great for you, and I'm not going to set you up for failure. Go talk to an attorney.
Yeah.
So
but you sharing these kinds of difficult journeys, that allows somebody else to go, oh, okay, so I don't have to scrape my knees and do the same mistake.
Right.
And I'm not alone. I'm not alone.
Yeah.
I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one that goes through these types of, situations, and there's somebody that I respect that's been through it and is there with me. And I think that's really important, because especially, as a sole practitioner or a small firm owner, even any business owner, you do feel like many times that you're on an island and you're steering the boat alone. And when things like that happen, that really seem catastrophic, it makes that loneliness even more apparent. So being vulnerable and sharing those experiences is just so valuable to everyone. Because we all make mistakes, and we all have bad things that happen to us. And if we can share those experiences, it just lifts everyone up.
Yeah. And Happy Hour honestly has created that space for many people. And I watch a lot of Facebook groups. I'm in a lot of them, watching, listening, reading, and they really help me through my processes, and I watch people with the questions that they ask, and I'm like, oh, you know what? I was wondering if I'm really doing that right. And so I watch the comments, and I'm not saying that everybody out there is giving the best advice. I wouldn't say that, you know, it's an all-encompassing place to get your research done, but it's at least a place where, like, I'm in the Sisterhood of Lady Tax Pros. I don't know if anybody that's on this right now are part of that Facebook group, but if you're not allowed to talk about tax or accounting, it's a safe space to share challenges, celebrations, and get support from others. And I really find that to be like, fill my soul a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's not why we're necessarily here today. I don't know how we went off on that tangent, but that's on me.
Well, I think it all comes back to the reason that Happy Hour exists is to help the community and to share what we've learned. And I'm going to keep us moving forward. So I'm going to share a couple things so that way we're back on track. But so Happy Hour, what we did in 2023 has been a wonderful experience. And that was to have apps join us for the entire year. And whenever they joined us, that's when their year started. So that means that a lot of these apps are going to move with us into 2024. But what our goal is to help the accounting industry with a tech stack. So as these apps are coming on, one of the things that we're progressing into is where do they fit inside of the tech stack? And one of the things that we're doing is how are various different accounting firms using this tech? So one of the things that's really exciting for Heather and I is that, Dawn, you are from our community. These are some solutions that you're using. And so to be able to talk about your tech stack, how some of these things fit in, helps our community to know what kinds of solutions are out there and why might somebody choose this solution over another one. It doesn't mean that one's better, but it does sometimes mean that you find a solution that sometimes is very specific to the need. And that's why I think it's really helpful to have firm spotlights so that way we can share with the community how exactly these apps are being used.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, one of the things that I love about it is, like you said, I mean, not every app is going to fit every mold of every firm, but so you've got to work through your own. You got to work through your own and what fits and works for you. But I'm going to let you keep going.
Okay, well, speaking of creating something of your own, this slide, of course, is where I have to laugh. So Firm Insights, we do this because we want our audience to know who is coming on and sharing. So how big is the team size? How many clients are you trying to serve? What are you trying to grow into? Or what's the niche? And one of the things that you said was, here's my client size. And then I said, what about growth? And you said,
I want to shrink it.
I was like,
I'm growing by shrinking is what I'm doing. And I don't mean physically shrinking and growing. That's not what I mean, which I don't care about that either. But I'm looking at it from a perspective of a year ago, I decided to, and people have heard this story a million times, or maybe they haven't. And if maybe they didn't listen to it right the last time. Over the last year, I've been implementing relationship pricing, subscription pricing per Ron Baker. He is so 100% correct. And I realized over the last year, I can work with less clients and make more money. Now, it's not always about the money, but I'm going to tell you something, and I've said this to people before. For 23 years, I've been in business I'm on my 24th year, and I made money for 3 years, the last 3. Prior to me making a decision to coach softball, my life was working. That's what I've always done. And it was always pay other people really well, you know, make sure you're taking care of clients, give away your brain for free. And then, you know, you can scrape together the pennies you have left over to feed your family. And that's how I grew my business. And that's really dumb. Not really a great growth plan. So when we talk about thinking 229 clients for one person to do those tax returns and have one person who does the bookkeeping and running around with our freaking heads with our heads with our hair on fire all the time wasn't a great business model. And a year ago I said, I am stopping. Now we were making money from COVID 2021. We were making money, but it still didn't feel right. I didn't feel like I was giving the value my clients deserve to get. And I knew I could be making more money because I was still giving away the house. So I decided to move to the relationship subscription pricing and went to that 17 client base over the last year. Yes, we had still our other tax clients. That's why we're still at 229. That 229, my goal is to drop that down to 50 in the next year. Now, when I say from a business client perspective, we don't want to be more than 30. I've pulled in my tax partner to help with the tax planning and the tax prep. I'm billing enough that he can get paid and I can still get paid. And so this year I said, there's no business client we're going to work with unless they're in relationship pricing, period. Not doing it. Last year we did it. Project people, last minute tax returns. And you know what? The people who were not on the subscription relationship pricing were the people who were on extension. They made me do a 10-month tax season. And I said that this was the last year. So I did a great change a year ago, but I'm ramping it up. So I sent an email out to my clients. It was on October 4th, I believe, or no, it was actually Halloween. It was on October 31st to every business client. And I said, you are all, here's how we're doing it, minimum requirements. Now, with all of that, putting that in place, guess what I have to have? A really good tech stack to support the services I'm going to provide to my clients and make sure my administrative workload is as minimal as possible. And that's what we've done.
I love that, because that really takes us into what you've been describing here, which is, this tech stack idea. And here's one of the other pieces. So we were talking a minute ago about the apps and building tech stacks and how the data flows together. But, one of the questions I'm going to ask you is, do some of the apps that you've got, do they require you to put in manual data? Do you have some workflows designed to help you with that automation of data?
Yeah, absolutely. So my whole thing is integrations and automations. If it's not integrating and we're having to enter in too many places, we have issues, we have problems, right? So we're very careful when we choose an app that isn't an app we're going to have to manually manage, right? Is Tracy going to have to, is this the fourth app she's going to have to add the client to? And if that's the case, there's got to be a better way. And some of our approach too is for an app that we really like that isn't quite there yet. I am all over them about integration, and it's not, don't tell me the next one that tells me it's on a roadmap, I'm going to throat punch them. Because that's me, I'm the throat puncher, the coach and the throat puncher. If you're not already, first of all, if you're not willing to integrate with other apps, we have a problem. So the ones that want to be standalone and do all their own thing, I don't have time for that. So I'm looking always for, is there an integration? And I always think of Tracy first, because if it's an administrative issue, she's the first person I think about. If it's what we need to do for the client, Nicole's the first person I think about when it comes to the bookkeeping. And when it comes to the tax, I'm thinking about me. So we're always considering it's more than just one person when you're making that decision, it's firm wide. And so we, in our firm, we enter, so the two entry points for us are, well, maybe there's more than one. There's an entry into Lacert and there's an entry into Lisio. Everything else should flow where it needs to go. The only other one is Canopy, because Canopy, I got to pull transcripts and it doesn't integrate with Lacert. I'm hoping someday it does, but for now, name, social, grab transcript, move on with my life. And that's something that I do. Tracy doesn't. So Tracy's still just entering in two places.
So that really answers this question of your datas are syncing, your apps are syncing together that data.
Yes, and there are occasions, and I'm sure people who are on this call right now agree, right, that some of them say they integrate, and they do, but what do they integrate and how do they integrate? How does the naming convention, when I enter it into this spot, where does it land over here in this spot? So for instance, right now we're going to talk about a little bit about Ignition because it's I'm obsessed. I have an obsession. I have a problem with Ignition right now because I'm so obsessed with it. All I want to do is send out proposals. I just want to bang, bang, send out proposals. So what I love about that is that Ignition working with QBO, when I send out an engagement, number one, everyone pays up front for tax return prep. And if they're in relationship pricing, the moment they sign on the dotted line, billing happens immediately. And so because I'm just sending that proposal and I've got all my templates set up, when I do that, my accounting is done, people. I'm not there's no accounts receivable. I'm not worrying about invoicing people. I don't do that anymore. I did that for 20 years. And you know what it did? Didn't make me a lot of money. So that's a great example of the automation where I need to send out a proposal to someone. They're in QBO because they were in Liscio. It's already in QBO. And so Tracy's entry, and I'm like, she enters that in the Liscio, and then I go and I make the proposal and send it out. It takes me 5 minutes. It doesn't even take me 5 minutes. So those apps that sync are giving you this productivity that is immeasurable in a little bit of a way. I remember the days of every Monday sending out invoices, Liz, hoping that I could pay people on Friday.
Oh,
I'm dying 10 years earlier because of that.
well, so the technology wasn't there though. And so I think that we've grown because what's available to us has grown.
Liz, you're so right about that. Previous to that, I was using something called Quotient, which I learned from a guy named Jim, good friend of mine. And I was like, oh, you send out quotes and all this? I hadn't been doing that. So that improved the process there, but I still had to go do the invoice in QuickBooks, right? So now with Ignition having the whole process being done, it's just bang, I do one thing. They manage the payments, they manage all that stuff. All right, I'm going to stop. I'll go for days.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that what people are curious about is what apps are you using that works? And so we asked you to let us know what internal apps that you're using. And some of these people are like, okay, that's some of those might sound familiar. Nice Job. What's that app?
Oh, Nice Job. Okay, so I don't use it right now for powerful accounting because I just don't. I won't say why, but I just don't really feel like I need to for myself because I'm not growing. I'm not looking to expand. I don't need my customers to review me so I can get more clients. Like but for the speaking stuff, I've been using Nice Job for reviews. So if you're somebody who's growing your business and you want more clients and you want that 5-star explosion out on the internets, right? And I love Eric Green is funny. I had a webinar with Eric today. He said something interesting and it reminded me of Nice Job. He said during his webinar, if you would go and rate Tax Rep Network, blah, 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 that would be really great. But if you're going to give it a 1-star, please call me or email me why you're so mad at me. Like if there's an issue. So I thought that was really cute, but I think sometimes people are afraid a bad review would slip in. Stephanie, yes, that is something I think is one of the challenges that people are concerned about getting reviews, that people are going to give them bad reviews. Now, I have to say that if you get a bad review, I would hope that's an opportunity for you to grow in your business. Call that, if you can find out who that person was or whatever, find out why there's bad reviews. I think people are always going to get a bad review here and there. I mean, listen, not everybody likes me. I get that. I'm overwhelming. It's a lot to deal with, and it's just not for everybody. And that's cool. Like, I get that. So you're going to give me a 1-star review for that? I can take the feedback. Maybe there was an event I needed to tone it back a little bit or whatever. So I can learn from that. But I understand where some people are concerned, where I just don't want to get bad reviews. And I think you can manage that too a little bit with Nice Job. It allows some flexibility with publishing reviews and stuff like that. It's a great tool.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you get an opportunity to do something about the feedback.
Yeah, exactly. Because otherwise, are you actually asking for it? Are you asking your clients right now for feedback? If you're not currently doing it, it's not going to hurt you. Yeah. It's a great way to get it.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we got our Pro Advisor sites out there with you can rate your Pro Advisor stuff. I mean, we're putting it out there. What's the difference?
What's the difference? Well, and we're getting to do something with that information. And Nice Job, it's probably like some of those others that are out there where you can copy the information from one platform to another, or it helps with Google, or it helps you.
Yeah, it helps with the Google reviews and bringing up your Google. And I just say, hey, Charlotte, make this work. however it's supposed to. Thank you.
This is Charlotte is your behind the scenes magic.
She's great. She's phenomenal. Yeah.
Well, so these apps that are here, do you want to call out any of these apps or any of the tools that, how about calling out the tools that flow data from one to the other?
Yeah, okay. Well, there's a couple of questions that people are putting in here, which I really appreciate. So we have been using, and I like to make this very clear. I'm very transparent, very straightforward with the way I look at things. We've been using Carbon for a long time, and we've enjoyed it. It has some limitations that we were looking for something different, for more exposure on the client information side, where we had dashboards for the client and stuff like that, because we don't use a CRM or anything like that. It's too much. We use our workflow tool as our CRM. We're a different kind of firm. And you may be somebody who wants to, have Salesforce and keep track of all your clients and stuff. Just not my thing. So with Carve, we just wanted something a little more robust when it came to the experience of seeing information. So Financial Sense, we found Financial Sense. And I really like the setup and the way that we can get to client information a lot faster and easier. So we're transitioning, and we're in a transitioning phase. Now with Financial Sense, there's some things that it doesn't do that Carbon does that I'm all over them about. I had a meeting this morning for an hour about it. Like these are some things that I have to have, guys, in order for me to take the full plunge over. We're transitioning and we're making that move. But the things that I loved, and again, Carbon's a great tool, not in the many tools that I've used before. It's just for now, and we've moved to a different way where we're not growing anymore. We're kind of where we're at, and Financial Sense is working great for us. So I want they were asking about that. And what about Liscio? Well, Liscio is meant to be that communication tool, which, by the way, my email went down a week before October 15th. I couldn't communicate with my clients if I was only relying on email. I had Liscio to be able to message clients and communicate with them. And Liscio has a new workflow for tax returns that is sick. So Liscio is going to be our communication. It has been our communication tool. We're stepping it up. Now, if you don't want to use Liscio for communicating, Financial Sense and Carbon both have great client tasks that you can send out and communicate through client tasks and things like that. It's really about finding what works best within your firm and the way you want to operate. And you just may want to operate differently than I do. And that's why it's great that there is options like Liscio and Financial Sense and Carbon, and you have the option. And I always tell people, when you're choosing, you have to have a list of must-haves. You have to have a list. And I had some must-haves, and the must-haves I couldn't get with Carbon. Some of it was the custom fields that we could put in there, like, are they in QBO Essentials? Are they in QBO Advanced? Are they in Desktop? We still have a couple people in Desktop. Different information that we wanted to be able to just go look real quick. Their integration with SmartVault is rocking. Financial Sense integration right now, if you send a client task through Financial Sense to a client, let's say you want to do the Ask the Accountant. And of course, people could be using Keeper, and there's a bunch of other tools. Man, there's a jillion. But if you want to send a client task, you send them an Excel spreadsheet, they work on it, they send it back, it goes into SmartVault automatically the minute they upload it. That's brand new. But the SmartVault, which is one of the major cores of my business, is SmartVault. Because Financial Sense has that open mind to get those direct connections, because Dawn Brolin wants them. That's what I needed.
So, okay, so let me just back up.
That's a lot, I know.
I want to hear it again. So Liscio is really the primary place that you want to be able to have client communication, because it really does have a very easy experience.
Yes.
Okay, so then you've got Liscio and Liscio and SmartVault that are talking to each other. And the reason for that is the tax returns and various different requests. And then you're saying Financial Sense is now building a connection to SmartVault. Is that what I heard?
That's correct. It's built. It's already done. It's already happening. So what'll happen there's a little setting in your system setting that says sync documents to SmartVault automatically. Now it creates a folder called Financial Sense in SmartVault. What's beautiful about that is all those documents are now going in there, and all you have to do is drag and move them where you want them, what folder you want them in. So many times when you send client, you're downloading the document and you're putting it in, uploading, download, upload, download, upload. Oh my goodness, really? I don't want to download and upload anymore. And SmartVault allows you to work within documents right within the connected desktop. Amen. But with Liscio, I want to go back to Liscio. They're reading Lacert. They're reading Drake. They're reading inside to those tax software, and they're grabbing, what W-2s did your client have last year? K-1s, Schedule C. What was all the stuff you needed? And it creates this request and shows the client, you had a W-2 for this employer. Do you no longer work there? Add your new one. It communicates everything you wanted to do that Link does in Lacert, but now captures it and pushes it into SmartVault ultimately. All these things.
So, okay. So Liscio is reading what was gathered last time and then
That's
creating a checklist.
Yep.
So
And you can
nice.
customize it.
And it has a direct integration with Lacert?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
This is new, brand new over the last few weeks. I've known for a while, but Chris and I'm so excited about that because it's good. Tracy, historically, you can build a tax organizer in there too if you want. You can take the tax organizer, it takes it from Lacert, and you can delete stuff. You're like, all the junk that you don't need, bang, 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 and set that template up. Tracy used to send the DocuSign, one DocuSign for a tax organizer to each client. In Liscio, you can pick the tags you want and say, I need all my 1040s, and it sends it all out at one time. It's going to save Tracy an amazing amount of money. Time to her, which is money, time is money to all of us. As my kids always knew when we were driving to school, Mom, time is money. And so I know I'm ripping through these examples, but it's the power of the choices you're making and what they're going to be able to do for you and what works best for you. For me, with tax, the Liscio new integration with the pulling all that data is key for tax, but for bookkeeping, Financial Sense can just send a client task. Nicole I need this bank statement. She can send the task from Financial Sense. When the bank statement comes in, it automatically goes into SmartVault, and she just drags and drops it where she wants it. So for her, Financial Sense makes more sense. Get it? Yes. Did you catch that? Makes more sense, where Liscio makes more sense for me on the tax side.
Right. Okay.
And
Well,
anyway, there's options.
I really like that you're giving us a sneak peek as to what your workflow is, because that's where we're all struggling. That the workflow tools are fantastic and I really love them. But where I see there's a big gap is the storing of the documents. Like 100%. They want to internally store those documents. They don't want to push them anywhere. So that's exciting news about Financial Sense.
Does Financial Sense have on their roadmap, and I know roadmap's a dirty word, but do they have on their roadmap the ability to map to particular client folders within SmartVault, or is that
already do it? They already do it.
They already do it. Okay.
If I'm in a client, like let's say I'm in Financial Sense and I I pick a client and I want to go to their SmartVault folder and I want to go look at a return or whatever I want to do. In my browser, I just have to log into SmartVault. Like when I get in the morning, I'm in SmartVault. It's part of that,
Yeah.
like it comes open, it's open, logged in. And if I'm in Financial Sense and I click on, Heather Satterley's, SmartVault folder, I click link to, it brings me right to your vault.
Oh, okay.
So I don't have to go into SmartVault separate, go to the client thing, search for you, pull
the mapped.
It's all mapped. I just click a button. It's mapped. I mean, it's, let's be real. George and Anthony, they came from SmartVault. They know SmartVault. They understand how integration would work with SmartVault. Financial Sense has an advantage on that. If we were to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
It's
well,
awesome.
we want them to utilize those advantages. So it's
right. We do. Definitely.
Yay. Because the data is what we struggle with. And so many schools do such a great job of sharing what the task list is, but then when you get information, it's still siloed. So that's super cool. I'm not going to stop us. Let me move us forward, because you also have some integrations and some, it's Ignition that I really would love to, hold on, it just jumped on me. I would love to dive into, because you've got some automations here.
Oh, yes. So with Ignition, the ability, first of all, to pull up that client, the emails all come into Ignition automatically when you're creating a proposal. The flexibility of being able to give clients options on what they want to choose. This past tax season, I gave them an option to have their tax return done and then have a notice management where you pay me $350, and if you get a notice, I'll deal with it for that tax year. And I had more people sign up for that option because I made it recommended than I ever thought I would. I mean, it was just phenomenal. So the flexibility of giving people options on what they want to pay for. Hey, you don't want to pay for notice management? And I tell them in this beautiful video that you see right here, I tell them, listen, here's the deal. This is what we're doing. If you don't want to pay for insurance for your notice, it's going to be $1,000 up front. It's $500 an hour for me to manage your notice. No exceptions, just telling you. And I'm very upfront in my video because I want them to understand what I'm offering them. So now we've moved to the subscription pricing plan, and I've got my templates all set up. They've got email templates. So I have templates set up for my S Corps, my C Corps, my Schedule Cs and Es, and my partnerships, because they're all different. They're different service offerings for different types of entities. I'm not going to do a reasonable comp analysis for someone with a Schedule C, but I'm going to do it for an S and a C. So the partnerships, different things that you're going to do for those different entities. So what's nice is when we set these templates up, I'm just clicking as I go through to send out a template. All the pricing's all structured, all set up. And in this example here, you'll see this is when you're getting towards the end of the proposal, and I'm going to send them a video, and I'm going to explain to them what relationship pricing is, subscription pricing, and this is what we're doing. And this is where all the business clients got. They're either in or they're out. And I tell them that on the video because I'm very upfront. So if you want to go to the next slide, I think there's another one that with my automation. So here's where the pricing is all automated. So I've set my pricing, the basic levels, intermediate, priority. You want to be a priority. This is where you're at. And I'll recommend, depending on the client, I will say, okay, you know what? I had one today. I recommended the basic level. I'm like, honestly, AJ, the basic level is plenty for you. I think we do 2 tax plannings for the year. Your bookkeeping is pretty straightforward. Your Schedule C doesn't have a Schedule E. And so I just recommend what I think they need. He can pick whatever he wants. People are like, well, why wouldn't you pick the 2,500 all the time? Because I want to be truthful and honest with my client. I don't want to pay him $2,500 when I don't think the value I'm going to be able to give him he doesn't have any employees. We're not doing anything other than he's a sole proprietor, right? So he's trying to really keep that pretty straightforward. So I've got this all set up in Ignition. It's beautiful. Next slide. It's good stuff. So here's where, with those processes, think about with the recording, the video, being able to talk to the client as they're opening up the proposal. They're seeing you, they're hearing you, you're explaining to them. They're not having to read it. They don't know the tone in the email, but they know the tone when they hear my voice. In here, we're going to say, hey, listen, here's the deal. Proposal signed, next steps. What are you going to do? Well, we've got a communication policy. Here's the deal. Do not email me. You can use Liscio, you can use SmartVault. And as a matter of fact, in the next follow-up slide, you'll see, we've told them, here's a link to your SmartVault folder. You want to upload to SmartVault? Fine. But you know what we've eliminated? We've eliminated invoicing. We've eliminated worrying about cash flow. We've set the tone of the relationship and the engagement, whether they're returning clients or new clients. This is how you'll communicate with us. This is how it's going to go. Your billing information, if you want to change it, here's how you go. If you have trouble, call Tracy, whatever. And I think the next slide shows the follow-up email with the SmartVault thingy, but go ahead.
Surprise, it doesn't.
Oh, okay, whatever, doesn't matter. But yeah, what's nice about it too is it could be in multiple schedules. So if I have a notice of deficiency, for instance, for a client, you're paying me $2,500 up front, automatic. You're getting charged the minute you sign this engagement. And then when we're done, I'm going to go ahead and I'll manually process that second one, or I'll set a date.
So I think this is the one that you're talking about right here.
What's that?
This is your slide that you're talking about, the link to folder.
Yeah, so if you're somebody who wants to link to if you want to stick with SmartVault, and that's what you want to do, we want to just give you, like in this case, we need a signed power of attorney. It's a wet signature, everybody. Can't do e-signatures for power of attorneys. So I send this to them and I say, hey, listen, print and sign your power of attorney. Here's the easy breezy. Here's the link for you. And then when we get notified by SmartVault automation, it shoots us an email and says, hey, so-and-so has uploaded the document, which Tracy manages all of that. I don't deal with that stuff. She is behind the curtain. She's the Wizard of Oz at Powerful Accounting. And that's why things flow, because we have these automations in place that allow us to be able to just get to work. And it's really nice, a really nice way for us to be able to do that. And yes, Larry, good point. The IRS launched an e-sign 2848. So, but the client has to have an IRS account. So they've got to have an IRS account in order for that to happen. But yes, that's Larry, another great thing to say, hey, my procedure is to use the portal. You need to go, well, I kind of like that, Larry, only because it's like, hey, client, you have to participate in this relationship, by the way. Go get yourself an IRS account, by the way. You can pull your own transcripts. You want to know what you owe. Like, hello, why do we got to be babysitters, right?
Yeah.
So I appreciate that point. Totally true. So anyway, so that's how we used Ignition to set up our process of, we've eliminated AR and bookkeeping by having that all done by Ignition. We have our templates all set up on our pricing. We have our engagement letter templates all in there. We have the ability to connect to QBO to pull all that in. Then we have our next step stuff that's happening without our interaction. Ignition's handling that stuff. So it really makes it really easy for us to, go ahead and we're waiting for that. It's kind of like, well, we're just waiting to get to work. We're just waiting to get to work.
Well, and getting the notifications that work is ready for you to do. Otherwise, you're just checking back over and over again. So I'm going to point out some of the integrations that Ignition has. And they do, for most of you here are QuickBooks, but they also have a Xero integration. So both of those are something to be aware of. And then Zapier, which means that you can create all kinds of automations. And then you also have Gusto that's here. And then what's that other little icon, that little blue double arrow?
Is that ITA? That's probably ITA.
Okay.
That is, yeah.
Yep. So we've been using ITA for some tax planning for clients. It's worked real well.
So I want to move over and start talking about your external apps. And so you've already talked about some of these a little bit, but do you want to elaborate on how you're using these apps?
Yeah. Actually, so obviously, go ahead.
I lied. That icon was Intuit Practice Management, which is the Intuitized Carbon.
Which they're not even promoting anymore.
Right.
Yeah. Weird. Yeah. But yeah, so I just want to make one comment about external apps, like with Lacert. Obviously, in order for me to produce tax returns, I need to have that tax software. But our software, everything, I don't care if it's a web-based tool or it's a desktop. I don't know what, someday people won't even know what we're talking about. So desktop tool like Lacert is all hosted in Swissnet. Everything is in the cloud. I don't want to work locally. I need to have security because I own keys to people's castles. I want to just mention that, even though, well, I use everything in the cloud. Yeah, really? Who's handling your local desktop for security purposes? Anybody? Oh yeah, my guy comes in once a year and installs some updates. Oh, okay. That's not really safe, by the way. So we just chose to have all of our stuff in one spot, and we live in the environment, and that's the way I call it. And Swissnet does end user and device protection. They do training. I just did a 15-minute training on Monday for my security stuff. They're corny, cheesy videos, but everyone needs to watch them. And so it's part of your cybersecurity insurance. You're saying you're getting training. You're saying you're keeping your data safe. Just need to throw that out there to protect you all from an event of that. But Corpay One, we set up our clients on Corpay One for accounts payable. We don't want our clients using checks. So we require them to set up an AP system. And yes, there's a billion of them out there. I just happen to like Corpay. I really enjoy them as a company. Their integrations, they're really working heavy on their product right now to do a lot of improvements, which I'm really excited about that they're working on. We use Dex for all our receipt tracking because, by the way, I don't know if anyone knew, I do handle IRS audits, and receipts are the biggest culprit to why audits go sideways in a lot of ways. Forget revenue. Let's just focus on expenses, where expenses are disallowed because people think the bank statement and the Amex card is good enough. And yes, it's good enough for the reasonability, but it's not good enough for reasonability. Or do you want to have actual expenses count in an audit? The IRS can't disallow all the expenses of a company. That's the Cohan rule. It can't do that. right? They say you have to be reasonable for someone to run an accounting firm. What would be those expenses? But you will miss out. Your clients will miss out on expenses if they're not capturing that data. That's what Dex does. And it captures those receipts and allows them to manage all of that. It'll do auto posting into QBO. Like, listen, if a Staples receipt comes through, just freaking post it as office supplies. Just post it, right? So being able to look at how that works. And then Bookkeep is just set it and forget it, man. If you're not using Bookkeep, come on. Like if you have somebody with PayPal, Square, any of that stuff, those e-commerce, if you will, people will say, well, I don't really work with e-commerce. Oh, you don't have any clients with a PayPal account paying people? You don't have any clients with a Square account? I've got plumbers that every once in a while, they're like, I got a Square thing because I want to accept a credit card right at the works, right there at the place. Oh, you're finally not billing people and invoicing them. You're taking payment on site. Then Bookkeep does the bookkeeping. Why are we doing transactional data anymore? And why are we relying on bank feeds 100%? Come on, people. We've got to utilize the tools that will give us the most accurate data live time and do it. Oh, so Nancy's having issues. Well, then that needs to be exposed. We need to work through that. What is it? And so if you're having, we've been green lights with it. We've had no issues, but if you're having issues, Nancy, we got to straighten that out, man. Oh, well, then you haven't talked to them with me, because then I come in and I do the throat punching and we take care of it, Nancy. You know that, my girl.
Well, and you even got some of those slides here that you're talking about the rules that you're setting. So I'm gonna pull those up here because you've got some slides where you're integrating with Dext here.
Right. And we're able to do auto publishing. Do we want to publish tax data or not? It's like some people like to, I don't know why, people like to separate the sales tax expense versus the regular. I don't, but people do it, whatever. And so in here, you know, bills, we want to track our bills. So now we've got this HVAC company who they get their invoices from the HVAC shop. You know, it's not Home Depot. It's like their supply house. And they weren't really tracking the AP because they were getting so many. Oh, Tiffany, they got to separate it in Canada.
Okay.
Stinking Canada. So they were getting them by mail, and they're like, can we get them by email? They're like, yeah. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to enter those into QuickBooks. Like those need to go somewhere. So just send them into Dex, get the bills over into QuickBooks, right? So there's different methodologies on why you'd want to automate things and why you wouldn't, and set up integrations. I'm all about that. So that's what that slide's just telling you, how you can send it. Here happens to be one of the receipts that they had paid for something that came in, and we coded it and off it went. But now we're not asking for so many receipts here. Auto publishing, you know, QuickBooks Online, we have to use, so Staples, we say, yeah, just auto publish to office expense. And the great thing about it is and this is what some apps I don't like because I feel like they hold us hostage. Dext keeps the receipts in Dext, but they also push them into QBO. They're not keeping us hostage, right? Corpay, we use Corpay for accounts payable. We're not using it to capture receipts. We're using it for strictly accounts payable purposes, Corpay, and using it for company credit cards as well. So we have this particular client who has drivers and guys on the road. They were giving them their debit cards. I'm like, no. And they're like, well, we can't get corporate cards for whatever reason. Well, let's get you into Corpay. We'll get each of your employees. What's beautiful about Corpay is you can say, you can't go to Staples. You guys are drivers. You can only get gasoline. You can't go in and buy food, right? Those kind of things. So there's again, different ways to use different applications depending upon what the need is. So Dext for us is overall receipt management. It's just receipt capture. That's what we're doing. So I love that's not a silly question, Anna. HubDoc and Dext. I will tell you, I went back to HubDoc 2 weeks ago, logged into my thingy, and went to go start connecting some banks for one of my clients. They're extreme. Once Xero bought them, at least this is my understanding, and I could be wrong. The ability to grab bank statements from all kinds of banks has really gone down to like Bank of America. I think there's 3. Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and maybe one else, where we used to really be able to even get them at a more local level. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't flexible for us anymore. And I was so upset. I was so devastated, to be honest with you, that they've crunched that down to where it's not so much exposure. And yes, Dex can capture revenue too. And HubDoc couldn't do that. Yep. Great points.
Well, I think one of the things that's awesome is to be able to hear your data flow. Where are you using these apps specifically? And how does it fit into your tech stack? Because you have a very well thought out tech stack. And I mean, one of the things that we hear is we want to have integrations from one app to the other, but that feels like that's what you did is you went out and you researched the apps and you talked to them and you pulled them in. And yes, it does help that you're Dawn Brolin, I'm sure.
I don't know about that.
But you're a voice for a lot of us to be able to say, this is what we're wanting. And so it really does matter that they're listening and willing to build.
Yeah, really, because at the end of the day, there's not one app that's perfect for everything and everyone and everywhere and every scenario. It's just not a thing. It's not ever going to be a thing. I know there are apps out there that are trying to get there, and best wishes for that. To be everything to everyone is not a thing. So we take what the good out of what they have and utilize and maximize that. Hopefully, in some cases, helping them improve the product in a way that the practitioners need it, not what they envision. Because a lot of those, I think about somebody like Jason Richling with Richardson with Bookkeep. That app was created because he had a problem. He sold wine. He had I think it was a wine store, and he was really struggling with the fact that he couldn't get the data into the accounting system correctly, because sales and revenue is different than cash flow. Sales and revenue, cash flow, they're not together. We sell and then we collect our money. And he was frustrated with that. So he wrote an app to solve his own problem. So that's very different than somebody who's creating an app because they see this cool vision of something and they don't even know, they're not solving it for themselves in any way. They're really just solving it as a global, what they think the industry needs. So we have to stop some of those guys. We have to help along. We have to help along the ones that, okay, this is a great app, like with Financial Sense, the stuff in there, man, we love it. And there's some stuff we do not like and we're not happy with. And so we're like, listen, get on a call with me and my 2 staff members, and we're going to point out the easy wins for you to solve in the next week, because I don't mess around. And here are the things, if we can't get these solved for, we may have to stick with carbon for another year because of the way things are done. So it's about helping them improve, because it's how we have to function. It's not, and so they're, like I said, you're never going to get an app that is everything to you that you want. It's almost impossible. And you're going to have challenges, by the way. You're going to have them. But I also find that sometimes we jump ahead and we don't realize they're ended up chasing us when we don't even really know what we're doing. And I've been a victim. I've been guilty of that. Getting in an app, thinking I know how I'm going to set it up with SmartVault. I was like, I'll set it up the way I want. It was all jacked up. People were uploading documents wherever they wanted. Like, it was like, where are the documents? I could never find these. Anyway, sometimes it's good to listen to what they have to say, I guess would be a really good tip.
Definitely. And Dawn, time flies when we're having fun, but we're at the top of the hour.
No, I'm not done.
Well, I have to say, we'll have to have you back, Dawn, because you sharing the pain points, knowing them, and talking to apps and gathering some workflows that work for a lot of us is super helpful. So thank you for coming on. As always, thank you for being so open with the community. And those of you who got to join, I want to say, yeah, there's a V2. I want to say these slides will be available to download. We'll make sure that it's on YouTube by the end of the week. And then on our website will be the slides so you can gather those. I think there were several people who had asked about that. And then make sure that you're subscribing to the YouTube channel so that way you know new stuff that's coming up. And then Heather, you want to talk about the Facebook Lounge?
Yes, if you scan it, that will bring you right to the Happy Hour Facebook Lounge, which is our Facebook group where you can connect with other Happy Hour guests and our attendees like you, our community. We also allow our partners to come in. So you'll also find some of our good friends, some of our app developer friends in the Happy Hour Lounge as well. So we hope that you guys will get engaged there as well.
And then new stuff coming up.
And we learned a lot about Ignition today, but we're going to do a deep dive into Ignition on December 12th. Really excited. We're going to be having Jenny Moore joining us, who's actually coming off of vacation just to spend that hour with us because she was so excited about coming on Happy Hour. She's like, no one else gets to come on Happy Hour but me. So we're really excited to have her back
Jenny's so awesome.
again.
She's awesome.
Yeah. So we're excited for that. And then on the 28th of December, we're going to be doing our New Year's Eve party. So make sure you mark your calendar for that. We're going to be doing games and prizes and lots of fun. And then we're going to have our annual apps to watch for 2024 on January 13th. So really excited for that as well. We got a lot of great apps that we're going to be taking a peek at. So
fantastic.
Yay.
Yeah.
And if anyone's at Digital CPA next week, I'll be there for Monday. I get in Monday night. I leave Wednesday mid-afternoon, but I'm there. Love to see you. I know I'm going to see Nancy there. Carrie keeps calling me coach, and I love her for that. That warms my heart. I love you, Carrie.
Well, thank you everyone for joining. Dawn, thank you for joining us and being here to fly through all of the tech stack and give some insights. And Heather, you know I love hanging out with you.
Of course.
Anytime.
Of course.
You are two amazing women. I love you.
All right, everybody. Thank you, Dawn. We love you.
Love you guys.
Love all of you as well. We'll see you guys in a couple weeks. Hey, Eileen, haven't seen you in ages. So happy you're here today.
I love Eileen Sass. How do you just not love her?
Absolutely.
Oh, early birthday, Anna. Let's go, girl.
Happy birthday. That's awesome.
I love that.
Well, I love all the comments. There's so much activity today. I love our community. So great to hear from you all.
Human beings.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
Love you guys.